October 31st, of course, it's Halloween, but it's also something else. It's National Magic Day. But that's because in 1926, the most famous entertainer who ever lived, Harry Houdini, passed away. And that was after a punch to the stomach, supposedly delivered by a McGill student, who was returning a book to Harry. And he had read the book, and in the book, Houdini had suggested that he was able to tense his stomach muscles so that he could withstand any punch to the stomach. And he was kind of sitting at his desk answering fan mail when Whitehead, the McGill student, brought back the book. And he said, "Mr. Houdini, is it true that you can withstand a punch to the stomach?" And he kind of grunted a yes, but he was in the midst of doing something else. And the student took that to mean, okay, go ahead. And he punched him in the stomach. And that turned out to be a pretty severe blow. He still performed that night in Montreal. And I have one of my favorite memorabilia here. This is a program, believe it or not, from Houdini's last performance here in Montreal at the Princess Theatre. And listed there is the Chinese water torture escape, which was his signature illusion. And he did perform that night, although he was in terrible pain from the blow in the stomach. But they still went on to Detroit. They took the train overnight. They were to perform there the next day. And Bess, his wife, begged him to telegraph ahead to have a doctor standing by. But of course, Harry said, no, the show must go on. And the show did go on the next day in Detroit, although again he was in tremendous pain. But the day after, they had to stop the show at intermission because he could no longer go on. He was taken to the hospital and he passed away 3 days later. And of course, as a magician would want to do, he passed away on October 31st, which was Halloween. He had a huge funeral in New York City, where he's buried in Macapella Cemetery. Well, it is traditional to do something in memory of Harry every October 31st. So I thought that we would look at another one of my memorabilia. And this is a celluloid doll. And you might think, what on earth does this have to do with Houdini? Well, it has to do with Houdini's hero. And that was Robert Houdin, famous French magician, from whom Eric Weiss, as he was born, swiped to the name Houdini. Houdin added an I to it and became Harry Houdini. Well, Robert Houdin was actually trained as a clockmaker, and he made a variety of automata. And in the 1800s, automata were fantastic things. Today, I guess we would call them robots. But Houdin's automata were something spectacular, and one particular one was called the Acrobat. And that was a little fellow about this big, and he would swing back and forth on a trapeze, and he would even somersault off of the trapeze. Now, of course, that was a very, very valuable piece of equipment, and I would have no way of getting a hold of that. But I do have sort of a replica of that. This also takes us back to the late 1800s, and it's a wind-up gizmo. And celluloid was a novel plastic in those days, and this little acrobat can also do a variety of things. He will swing back and forth, although he doesn't have the ability to catapult off of the trapeze. But you can imagine that back in the 1800s, this was pretty neat stuff. So there's your connection between automata, Robert Houdin, and Harry Houdini. Happy Halloween, happy National Magic Day.